Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Matt from MTG Gaming Bob.
And I'm MTG Gaming Bob from MTG Gaming Bob.
Yeah. And this is going to be a little bit of a different video. It's basically just going to be two guys hanging out, talking about whatever we want. There's going to be some Magic the Gathering. There's going to be some video game talk, maybe some movie talk. And that's just kind of how we're going to do it, like a little Christmas video, kind of just have some fun and chat with you guys. And you guys talk in the comments section and we'll kind of interact with you guys that way. And maybe the next time we'll do these live.
I am looking forward to seeing what we're actually going to talk about. We have a few ideas, but this is not scripted at all. It's going to be very much, like you said, off the cuff. Though I do have a couple of mail items I would like to at least share with the audience and thank the people that sent them. It's the holiday season. There's been a lot of gift giving going on. Last week, if any of you were there, thank you if you were. We did a charity live stream that went way longer and was way more successful than I expected it to be. I was afraid that I wouldn't sell through one box of what I had, and I had to actually break another box out of my personal collection to cover all of the crazy input. You guys are maniacs. Thanks so much. We raised over $3,500 for 5 different charities. It was an honor to be there. Matt, you were in there in the audience. Hopefully it was enjoyable.
Yeah, I was there for most of the time. It was a bit chaotic. But honestly, there were so many people in the chat, so many people out of the chat. So, it was actually pretty cool to be a part of it. And yeah, I donated, I think, close to 200,
Wow.
just to kind of just give the holiday spirit. I don't typically give the donations that often because I don't trust where the money goes that often. But the charities that you guys selected, there was 5 different ones, and they were all going for good causes. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just go for it. Just try to support everything.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that because that was sort of behind the scenes. One of the biggest criteria that we were talking about, and I was talking with Feldy and Big Box Dave. That one of our biggest concerns was making sure that our charities spent the vast majority of the monies that we were collecting actually for the charity itself, and not really just to pay a bunch of admins. That wasn't the intent of what we're doing. None of us made any money off of it. We all spent quite a bit more than we expected to, but it was all for a great cause, and hopefully people got some great cards. They're out in the mail currently as we're making this video. But speaking of that, in that process, I also got some cards from some people that I would like to share. This first one, it confused me because it didn't really tell me who it was from. I had a pretty good idea when I saw that it was addressed to MTG Gaming Bob in the United States of America. So I had a good idea that this is from somebody that's yeah, can you guess who it's from just by seeing that a little bit of it? Any guesses at all?
Is this Savannah Lions?
It is from Savannah Lion. As soon as I saw that, I'm not even going to pretend to try to pronounce this, though that's sort of been a thing. He's been sending this same Christmas card out with, I don't know how you would pronounce that, Pretij Kerstgarden and in Galukig Newjar. That's as best I'm going to be able to pronounce that. I'm definitely not Norwegian in any sense. And he sent me some cards. I have not looked to see yet what these are. I just wanted to make sure that it was indeed, oh, there we go, the Goblin Snowman from Savannah Lion. So I'm just going to, it looks like this is like a pull-out thing, I guess. Oh, yep, that's exactly cool. What that is. I'll tell you what. I absolutely love this. I remember cracking these back in the day, but talk about being on point for this time of the year.
Yeah.
Wow. Absolutely loving it. I can feel there's a few cards in here. I think there's still, nope, that's just the sleeve itself. So we'll see what's in here. So absolutely loving the theme with the snow, with the Goblin Snowman, just absolutely on point. Thank you very much just for that card alone. Hey, we got, well, I saw it all. So Cheaty Face. I'm a big fan of the uncards, as you know. I do plan on picking up at least, we talked about this before the filming tonight, that I plan on picking up some of the new unset. We can get into that in a little bit here. So thanks for giving us a little bit of content to lean into, Savannah.
You know, the only reason I know about Cheaty Face is because of Nate. He actually legitimately used that in some games that we played way back in the day. He actually bought it and was like sneaking it into games and everything.
So, I mean, maybe we should probably give a little bit of reference to who Nate is to the audience. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
he's
gonna
just
say
a,
he's
he's
part
just
of
a really
part of
good
our
friend of mine, and he
well,
go ahead.
he's part of our group that our between Matt and I, our commander group, our Magic the Gathering group.
Yeah.
I'd like to play more, but we'll get into some of that too with discuss in the year in review some of the stuff we've done there. And a snow-covered swamp from Ice Age. That is
That looks
just
good.
plain baller. Oh yeah, dude. These cards are all in great shape. So Savannah Line, thank you very, very much. Merry Christmas, and please continue to watch the show. I hope you continue to enjoy the content that we're putting out. Very much appreciate these cards. They are definitely going to go in my collection.
That's awesome. Thanks, Savannah. Glad you
And
enjoy the
then
channel.
this one's a little more bittersweet. Dystopian World Games has decided to start breaking down some of his collection. He is going to be on a hiatus from Magic, is the best I could say. So prayers go out to him. But even though he's on hard times, he sent these out from the goodness of his heart, and I thank you very much. That's I'm very appreciative. I'm usually bad at receiving gifts because I always feel like I'm on the hook, but I'm very appreciative of them. So I don't mind giving gifts. Oh, there we go. So we got got a foil there. MTG Gaming Bob, thank you for your continued support. I hope these shinies reach you in good spirits. Happy holidays, Dystopian World Gaming. Absolutely, they do reach me in good spirits. This is my favorite time of year. I love Christmas. A lot of people kind of bah humbug, but I think it's kind of special because I think it's for a very short window. The time of year that makes us just slightly better versions of ourselves. I know I try to be. So thank you for these, and I'll just go through these real quick here. We got a Daybreak Chimera. Love foilies. I don't know if you can see the foiling.
Yeah.
Is that coming through?
Yep.
Enhanced Awareness. That's what Fate Reforged. Not a set I was in at the time. Oh, that's Battle Bonds. Eager Construct. A Pyroclastic Hellion. Ooh. And a foil Deathless Knight. This is definitely
cool.
awesome in that skeleton deck. If you're playing with that skeleton enchantment from AFR. What the heck is that called?
Resembling skeleton or the other one?
The enchantment, the black-green enchantment that you create a 2/1, or you create a skeleton token each turn.
Skeletal Scrying?
No, skeletal.
What set is it from?
From AFR. At any rate, it gives +1, it gives +1, +0, and trample to each skeleton, and they can't block and have to attack each turn.
Skeletal Swarming?
It's not. Yeah, Skeletal Swarming. So this is a really good one for Skeletal Swarming. Big, hasty. Gets even bigger with that thing out there. So it's one of the last decks that I had on Arena before I decided to uninstall it, which we can get into that a little later. So thank you for the gifts. I appreciate them. And gift cards, and I don't mean like gift cards that you spend. I mean these kind of gift cards kind of hold a little special place. When I get them as a gift, they're cards that I would never trade or sell or get rid of. They become priceless parts of my personal collection. And thank you for the Christmas cards. I hope both of you have very, very Merry Christmases or holidays or whatever you might celebrate.
I ended up coming across on eBay. I was just kind of trolling around. This was a couple months ago. I came across a Psychotog and a Thorn Elemental, and they were signed from the artists. Now, those cards normally aren't that, whatever for anybody, but they happen to be, Psychotog being David's favorite card. He has a tattoo of Psychotog. So, of course, I bought that. I didn't care what it was going to go for. It wasn't too expensive or anything. But then Thorn Elemental was Nate's favorite card from back in the day. I ended up getting, literally back-to-back, within an auction of each other, both of their Christmas gifts like that with no problem. And then David almost cried when I gave him his. It was a good feeling. Those are the types of gifts and whatnot that make me feel like Christmas is worth it. Some years, I'm not really in the spirit, but I try.
I am in the spirit every year. I am definitely a Clark Griswold. I'd like to kind of lean into the next part of this, and it actually kind of blends well into Magic, and then we can talk about it in going into other topics, other gaming. Recently, I watched the Arcane show. I don't know if you've caught that yet on Netflix, and I
I
am
have not yet.
very impressed. I went into watching the show pretty ignorant about it, so I was pretty much a blank, canvas for them, and it was surprisingly good to me. I mean, I liked Castlevania, for those that are into the anime type stuff.
Great anime.
So you watched that on Netflix? They just
I've
recently
watched
had a
the
new.
first and second season of Castlevania.
I think it was season 4 that just came out.
Yeah, I'm behind. I've been meaning to watch Arcane. I just haven't. I will say this:
Yeah.
a buddy of mine, he watched it recently, and he has no clue about League of Legends at all. He said that he felt it was fine, but he did feel disconnected. Where, like, a main character would come in, say Jinx, for instance, who's on the screen right now. She would walk in, and everybody that knows the game would be like, "Oh my God, that's Jinx!" But then for him, he felt so disconnected because those moments where you're like, "Oh, that's that character I know," he had no recognition of any of the characters. So for him, he didn't think it was that great. He thought like it was good still, but not as good as somebody that has recognition for the characters. I would
I'm
agree.
sure.
I
That's
think the
like
same
anything,
thing. Yeah.
That's pretty much with anything. Like anybody who read the Lord of the Rings books, was probably more impressed by characters that they saw in the Lord of the Rings movie. That didn't mean people didn't absolutely love it. And
Yeah.
like I said, I went in pretty ignorant, and I thought it was an excellent one. So much so, there's a secret lair out at the Arcane Secret Lairs. You can see the art that's in them. I really like the art, and it really is flavorful for me. And they're going to have Rhystic Study in there. I don't really need Rhystic Study, but I have copies of that. However, I really love the flavor of this. I think it's fantastic. I think it's the Hedron is another one that's in there. The artifact. Oh no! It's
Grand Dynamo.
Like a Thran Dynamo, but they're renamed. It's not called Thran Dynamo.
It's called the Hexacore.
I mean, good value in the cards. It's a home run for me. I love the show. Good timing on WotC's part to get it out there with all the challenges that they've had. And I'm never one to hold my tongue about bashing WotC on things that they do wrong, but I'm also never one to hold my tongue about things that they're doing right. And I think they're starting to get more right than they are wrong. I would like to see them kind of scale back on the amount of products that they're kicking out. I think we kind of touched on a lot of that on the wallet fatigue video that we did a couple months ago. We cracked open some boxes of Commander Legends, and we all drafted Commander Legends the way it's supposed to be done, which was my kind of first foray out of my home for the current environment, the Ronas, and it was stellar for an experience. It was one of the most fun events that I have ever had playing Magic. Even looking back fondly on other formats, because they didn't have Commander back in some of my earlier days. Multiplayer formats were not really a thing. There was some Emperor back in the day, but you really didn't play too much free-for-all back in the days like Urza Saga and Exodus and Tempest and all this. It just they just didn't play well multiplayer format. I think it probably took Magic maturing to the point where it is now. And by maturing, I mean having the card base that you have available to have such a colorful multiplayer experience. And Commander Legends did not disappoint in my estimation. So if you haven't had a chance, I highly recommend, getting a box before they start climbing up in value, because I really feel that Commander Legends is going to be one of those special products that over the next few years is going to start climbing up, especially when it goes out of print.
I'd probably do it soon too, because I don't know, this isn't like a major indication of the supplies drying up or anything, but you guys are familiar with Rudy from Alpha Investments. He just recently removed it from his patron list, so that typically gives he typically has a good finger on the pulse, considering it's his life. Him removing it from that means that the supply is dwindling. Not saying it's gone, because you can go to eBay, you can go to Amazon, and you can pick up boxes right now. But how long will that last?
In any case, it seems like it's pretty far out to start spoiling some of Unfinity. That seemed
Yeah,
a little off.
I thought so as well. But I'm not. I don't hate it because they didn't spoil a ton. I think they wanted to create some hype for it and try to gauge the.
It worked.
Um,
I'm hyped.
yeah, I mean,
I'm definitely hyped
I
for
think it's
Infinity.
one of their smarter decisions to add in cards that actually matter. I say matter as in meaning that they're playable in Commander. That's kind of important for a set that typically none of the other unsets they were just for fun, and that's fine to have a set that's just for fun. But at the same time, none of them are valuable to my knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I'm just excited for whenever the set comes out. I definitely will be buying a box.
So as far as the Infinity set, before I forget the train of thought on that one, I did a whole tinfoil hat section on the round table a couple weeks ago. Maybe it was a week ago. That was a couple weeks ago. At any rate, I think it's even more devious than that. I feel like we're being led down this path that I'm connecting dots that are maybe not there. However, I keep pointing out to people and I keep screaming, they can reprint reserve list cards any time they want, so long as they're not tournament legal. It says right on their site that the reserve list reprint policies only apply to tournament legal cards. Go check it out. Go to their site. Don't take my word for it. This is where I got the news from. Now think about that in terms of unsets. Unsets have always been the not tournament legal set. Why? Or how do they note that?
Silver bordered.
Silver bordered, right? So they're getting rid of silver border, even for the ones that are not tournament legal in Unfinity. There will be no silver bordered cards in Unfinity. Do you know how they're going to determine which ones are tournament legal and which ones are not?
I think it's the acorn symbol.
The foil acorn stamp. So think about that. You're going to now start getting used to, just like with Universes Beyond, now they're using this acorn symbol. They're getting to the point where they're determining tournament legality, black bordered cards that you now have to just look for this little foil stamp on it, right? So imagine this. How upset do you think most people would be having a dual land black bordered with just an acorn stamp on it to show that it's not tournament legal? Think about that in terms of Commander out there with all the kitchen table magic. Most people aren't going to care. How many tournament games of Commander you think are going to go on out there?
I mean, there is a competitive scene. There's a competitive scene, even at one of our local game stores. What do you mean by
right? But I don't think it's supported by WotC.
Well, no, not by WotC, no.
So again, I don't think it's going to have nearly the impact that people think on the financial aspect of reserve list cards, because it won't be, when you go to see it, it'll just be like a gold bordered card, right? It doesn't have nearly the value of like a gold bordered Gaia's Cradle, which all it has some value. It doesn't affect the black bordered versions of it. It doesn't affect the foil DCI promo version of it. And I think very much of the same thing, especially if they even do completely different art on it, right? Do a different kind of treatment, kind of like how they do dual lands now, with instead of doing the candy cane stripes like they did on the old school, but do like they do with the the split bottom half of the, what do they call it, the text box part, where they do one half the one color, one half the other color for dual-ish lands now.
Yeah, a hybrid.
So they could do all kinds of things that won't upset the apple cart with the collector market, and they won't technically be violating the reserve list so long as they put the acorn stamp on it. I'm telling you, they're leading us down this road. If I can see it, it's clear to me that this is a direction they can go, and they're pushing the boundaries. They're testing the boundaries. They're making cards like Jeweled Lotus that are really close to a Black Lotus, but with different sort of restrictions on it. And they keep doing these different things that are pushing the boundaries of the reserve list cards.
I'll be honest, it kind of blows my mind that any of these non-legal cards are worth anything, to be honest. I just,
why?
To me, they're no different than printing off your printer a proxy of the card and just throwing it in a sleeve, because they're not tournament legal. So at that point, you're just printing them off a printer.
For whatever reason, people are far more willing to accept a gold border card which is not tournament legal. I agree with you. It's more like a proxy, and I think WotC's kind of foolish for not printing it. There's a huge market out there, and I hate to tell you, but Wish is getting all that money, whether you want them to or not. People like to have those proxies, and
I bought one.
You know,
they're decent enough for the table.
Sure. And since most people don't care about proxies, so instead of WotC getting that money, some Chinese, knockoff factory is getting the money, and they're just going to get better and better and better. And you're actually creating more of a problem, I think, by not giving viable proxies, from WotC itself, that you're forcing people to go to these Chinese companies. You don't think that they're over there trying to figure out better and better ways to make them harder and harder to detect whether or not they're proxies? You're fooling yourself. Especially
when people on YouTube go, this is how you determine if they're fake, and you do all these tests. They're going to use those examples of how you see if it's fake
guilty.
to make it not fake.
We have a video for that with a light test and all that stuff.
Yeah, they'll go, that's what we need to do to make it look real? Cool. We'll fix that.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. So by WotC not printing them and not making them available at, reasonable prices to people, they need the cards. And rather than just writing, dual land on the card, they're just, hey, for $20, I'll go get them from Wish. Anyways, I think it's foolish, and I know people are going to hate on us for this because people are so in love with the reserve list. And honestly, I think it's only a handful of people that are worried about it. I really do. I don't think you'll have as much of a backlash. You'll have much more support and cheering, I think, from newer players than you'll have a backlash.
So, I think you'll have more positive than negative from going that route.
Yeah, I think I struggle a little bit in that it would probably devalue cards if initially they did make proxies initially. And I think that over time probably would go, it would either the proxies would then be worth more and climb up with the normal card, or it might over the long run be fine. But I'm looking at the collector's edition Black Lotus, and it's 5,000. Mid is 7,000. It blows my mind.
Those probably drop. Those I'm going to say would probably drop.
Oh yeah.
But those aren't really the collector ones, anyways.
Well, they're the collector's edition. I mean, they're literally designed for it.
They will probably drop in value, and then eventually they'll as they get attrited out through natural attrition, they'll become valuable in and of themselves. Think of it this way. Just like the cold foils in Flesh and Blood, right? Every one of those they could reprint, and probably will, if they're necessary for the gameplay in Flesh and Blood. But it's not going to devalue the cold foils. Just like eventually over time, the older cards and valuable cards can find their natural price point because they are old, because they are rare. They're the OGs. They're the desirable ones that people want to have. And I think what the biggest fear is that people are afraid of losing value in janky-ass reserve list cards that shouldn't have any value, only strictly because they're on the reserve list. It's an artificial value attached to the card, right? And that can help other cards that they can print in the future and should have been printing all along the way, like the masterpieces. Like the most value, I think the most expensive version of the Soul Ring is actually the Masterpiece Soul Ring. I don't know, it'd be close between that and the Alpha. I'd be curious to see. But you can print new valuable things. Serial numbered Viscera Seers. Those are clearly going to be the most expensive Viscera Seers that ever exist. There are ways to create confidence in the market moving forward if you abolish the reserve list, that the reserve list is actually hampering their ability to create new value and create new confidence in new cards coming out. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I do not like reserve list, but
I'm just saying I think it's actually more detrimental than it is helpful to the game.
Realistically, at the table, what the rules are, whatever. Like we were actually thinking about David, Nate, and I were talking about potentially allowing for a modal card. I wanted to play only the front half of the modal card in my commander deck. It's something Loyal Hound for Planeswalker. It has a red version on the flip version. I'm like, well, I never want to play the flip version, but I can't play that card.
Mila? Is it Mila?
Yeah,
Mila from Strixhaven?
I think so, yeah. The Mila Hound or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mila's Crafty Companion. So I want to play Mila's Crafty Companion because of its effect on the front half of the card. I don't give a crap about the back half of the card, but it's illegal in my deck because I play all the other colors but red.
You touch on a very good point and that is the rule zero conversation should rule all. It's a game, right? For example, they just banned Hull Breacher, right? Which made the card absolutely tank in value, which seems silly to me because it's a great card. And the whole reason that they banned it was because of its combination between that and wheels. You know, you have that there's another one out there, I can't remember what it's called. It does a similar thing to Hull Breacher, where instead of creating a treasure token, you draw a card. I can't remember what he's called. He's a Demir colored thing. Anyways, they didn't ban him, but it'd be just as oppressive with him with a wheel. Or if you put Narset out there, the one that you can't draw more than one card a turn and then wheel people. Discard your whole hand. Can't draw more than one card if you already drew this turn. Too bad for you.
Yeah, Nate plays in his Rakdos Lord of Riots deck. He plays Sire of Insanity. At the beginning of each end step, each player discards his or her hand.
So I guess what I'm getting at that in a very long-winded way is that I don't think our play group would have a problem with me playing Hull Breacher so long as I didn't pair him up with wheels.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be that oppressive. And it's the same way for a lot of things. Like, a lot of things aren't bad so long as you don't play them with X. And you can fill in the blank with lots of, like, I don't care what it is, but that's what the rule zero is intended for, and I think it's healthy for gaming, for having a good time.
Yeah.
At the heart of it, if you're playing with people that are playing decks that are just feel bads for you, and you're just sitting there watching them dirtle and play Magic while you're watching them, that's generally just going to feel bad. And I know I would speak up to the group and say, all right, I don't want to sit here watching you play Magic with yourself for 25 minutes. Don't play that deck. I guess my point is so long as you're having fun, it should be allowed. And whether it's a Black Lotus or a proxy card or a dual land if they reprint it with an acorn symbol on it or whatever it may be, or even silver bordered cards, so long as your group is okay with it and people are saying, okay, this is fun for us, whatever it may be.
At any rate, what do you think is I guess we could split this up in kind of multiple categories, because I know I have clear winners in my head. What is your favorite standard set of the year?
Upcoming this year, we've got a lot of great video games that are coming out. I think Diablo 4 is coming out.
I don't think it'll be next year, but we'll see. I hope so.
You don't think? I thought they said it was going to be this year.
I don't think so. I mean, we'll see though.
I mean, Blizzard's notorious for like really late, dragging their feet on releases.
Well, realistically, besides Path of Exile, there's no other competition for them, so there's no reason for them to rush it. It's basically, in my opinion, it's a war between Path of Exile 2, which is coming out sometime in the next year or two, maybe 3, or Diablo 4. And I think at this moment, they're both they're like, well, whoever releases first, I think loses. And quite honestly, if they release a game that isn't good enough, it's just gonna fall flat on its face. And I will say, I have been keeping up with the news of Diablo 4, and the most recent news, I don't know if you've heard any of it, the Paragon system got enveloped from Diablo 3 into 4, except for it's different. They're basically stealing. I don't want to say stealing. They're heavily inspired from Path of Exile skill tree, and I mean heavily inspired. It looks the same. It is structured the same. It just has the same features and functions. I mean, it is almost a copy paste of Path of Exile's passive tree.
It worries me a little. I don't really want to have games that are like clones of each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if they're both trying to fight for the air in the same space.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those types that kind of gets bored with the game, then drifts to a different game and plays that. But I want different flavors when I do that. I'm really digging Diablo 2. That's for lots of different reasons. The Diablo 2 Resurrected, and I hear they're going to bring in some new rune words. Very excited about that.
11, I think 11 new rune words, or 7, or 9.
Rune words were where it was at to me, and I thought it was a mistake that they didn't, bring those along in Diablo 3. I mean, it really
Diablo 4 rune words they're not rune words. They're fake. They're like generic little dumb things. They said runes are coming back. They're gems. They're gems. They're Diablo 3 gems.
Which is what kind of replaced. They kind of mushed together the rune words and gems.
Yeah.
In Diablo 3, but it's just kind of a half-ass of both.
Did you see all the remastered, the Diablo 2 remastered? Did you see all the class balancing they're doing as well?
I haven't really gotten down in the nuts and bolts, but I saw that they were doing that.
I watched the whole. There's a dev interview with SC, Mr. Llama SC, There's like an
Okay.
hour and like 20-minute dev interview. There's like 3 different devs there. They go through and they talk about the rebalancing of every class. You can go on the forums as well and look for your guys yourself.
What I found in Diablo 2 for Resurrected, for whatever reason, I'm playing a class that I only played a little bit back in actual Diablo 2, and that's the Javazon has just been very, very efficient at farming for me, even more so than the Paladin, because you don't really have the bots. Or you don't have bots, so you don't really have those bot games, which were kind of a critical piece to that.
Oh,
And
for
actually,
bale
I think
farming.
for bale farming, but understand that a lot of those bots, and I don't think they quite got the gist of this, were helpful to so much of the community, to get
Yeah.
out there and be able to do things. So it really kind of kills sort of a large part of the game to even get to the upper end, to get to your level 90. So you still have these great, experience curves that you have to try to get past, and gear curves to try to get past, but you're really slogging it out, and only a few people are really up at the top end that are farming that kind of gear. And I found that the most efficient class for me, with a minimal amount of investment, and it's strictly speaking just because of the cows, right? The most survivable so far has been the Javazon, having the Valkyrie with her, and a mercenary, and being able to stand at range and throw the javelins, and then stack other things I learned from Mr. Llama SC about like the curses and whatnot that you can get put on things. And I got kind of lucky with the amulet that lets you do that, the curse that kind of gets rid of a lot of the immunities. So at any rate, the Jabazon was just very, very easy for me to get into the upper end of the game and actually get to farming the cows, because the cows basically have no resistances and whatnot. And they dropped enough for me to get an Enigma. I got a Jaw rune pretty quick. I got a Burr rune pretty quick. Got an Ist
Yeah.
rune pretty quick. So that was kind of an interesting thing that I've learned from, things I learned from Diablo 2. And I've enjoyed it, and I actually enjoy playing her, and I pretty much have a set routine that I go through now, because I don't have those avenues with the exclusion of the bot games to jump into.
The Red on release, I just went Sorcerer right away, and I just did Fireball, Blizzard, Sorcerer, and it just cleans house. It's so good. Teleport. I mean, I think they need to add teleport to other classes. I think that if they don't, it
That's
just
what the
makes the
Enigma is.
Sorcerer. Well, yeah, but like, if you've ever played any of the modded versions of Diablo 2, basically there was Path of Diablo, which is like a Path of Exile crossover. They basically just gave a teleport on a cooldown for every class. Sorcerer was the only one that didn't have a cooldown, but every other class had like a 8-second cooldown teleport. It just opens up so much more abilities for other characters to shine, where as an MF at least as a magic finder. I don't know. I think that leaving it at just Enigma is too broad. I mean, I'm sure you can get an amulet as teleport, which costs 1 billion gold, or a staff or whatever, but I don't know. For
Yeah,
like,
honestly, the Enigma is what works for me, because it's got the magic find and the teleport on it, so it's
oh yeah,
it's just
Enigma's a
juicy.
great chess piece. Obviously, if it wasn't so expensive
It's just
to
hard to
make,
get.
yeah. I mean, the majority of people don't get Enigma. I mean, honestly, like probably a very small fraction of people.
Which is why I was saying, getting the Javazon to be able to farm the cows quickly and early on, in the path.
I'd say you're
The way
really lucky to farm it as quick as you did, to be quite honest. I didn't find any high runes besides Cham. Found one. I forgot what it was, but I found one high rune.
So I'm just saying, if you go that way, and I've heard from a lot of people talking that the cows are really where the high runes are dropping.
Yeah.
At any rate, I'm enjoying it, but I am looking forward to Diablo 4 to see what it has to offer. Hopefully it'll come out this year. If it doesn't, no big deal, because I'm getting, and I know that you said you weren't a huge Borderlands fan. This year, actually, the first quarter, I can't remember exactly. Maybe it's in March. I'd have to look again. I already pre-ordered for both me and my daughter. Borderlands, the Tiny Tina's Wonderland. There's been some commercials out there. If you all have seen it, it looks pretty good. Absolutely, one of my favorite video game experiences of all time was playing Borderlands 2, Tiny Tina's, what was it, Assault on Dragon Keep, or whatever it was called, the Dungeons and Dragons DLC that they had for that. Absolutely amazing. I love Borderlands 2. Really love Borderlands 2. The flavor, paid attention to kind of like the storyline. It was just absolutely awesome. Wasn't as in love with Borderlands 3. It just didn't hook me as much. It definitely has some better gameplay features with like the slide ability. I really didn't like a lot of the changes they made to the Siren, because Siren was pretty ubiquitous in Borderlands 2. It's clearly, in my opinion, the best character, and it seems like it's much more balanced across lots of different character types in Borderlands 3. But I just didn't have the interest to really kind of stick with it and see all the new DLCs and the special seasonal things that they do. I hope that I get hooked back into Borderlands with Tiny Tina's Wonderland coming out this year. So if you guys play Borderlands out there, let us know if you want to see some of the gameplay when it first releases and watch me stumble through a game, because I suck at video games, probably about as bad as I suck at Magic, which I know a lot about Magic and I have a lot of great ideas about Magic. But I'm not a great Magic player, and I'm not a great video game player.
I'm pretty good. Maybe we can do a live stream and we can like dual cast it somehow, and we can bust through some stuff. I'm not opposed to Borderlands. I have Borderlands 3. I played through it. I beat the story. I just for me, when I said I didn't like care for it that much, is the replayability is just not there for me. Like the grinding, the story's fine. Playing through the story mode, fine, but replayability is kind of just not really there for me.
No, it never really has been. And that's why they have the DLCs that come out. I don't know where you stop, but there's probably been a bunch of DLCs since you stopped playing, so there'd be more content for you to play through.
Literally the base game, the Borderlands 3.
Yeah, there's been a ton, and they release them fairly quickly. So
yeah, it's weird that Tiny Tina's Wonderland doesn't even look like Borderlands to me. Like, it looks very fairy tale-istic and almost looks like World of Warcraft, kind of, but like on a first-person version. As far as the graphics are concerned, very magically. I mean, yeah, there's guns, but there's a lot of like people casting spells and stuff. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, it's you have to go back and play the Assault on Dragon's Keep. That was just it's hard, and it's so good. It is so good.
Hey, maybe when they bring out Tiny Tina's Wonderland, maybe they'll have like a bundle I can grab.
But it'd be Borderlands 2, so you won't be able to play it with. And Tiny Tina's Wonderland is not actually like a DLC. It won't be part of Borderlands 3. It is a standalone game.
Oh, well, yeah, it does look very different.
So we'll see where that goes. But that's sort of a big one that I'm looking forward to this year, coming up. So I don't know if there's a lot of Borderlands fans that are watching our channel. Lots of good stuff that's coming up. Kind of looping it back to Magic and getting into that. Like, so what we're looking forward to in the next year.
Well, I want to say a game that I'm excited about coming out. Lost Ark. It's been a game that's been extremely popular over in Korea, Japan, and Russia. And the only way you could play it as an American is to have a VPN and have a account over in Russia when it first came out. In Korea, it was a whole different ordeal. You had to have they have to have special IDs in order to play games. So if you wanted to play that game in Japan, you'd have to have a specific ID from somebody that lives in Japan in order to download the game and play it. But now it's finally being ported over to America. Basically, it's just like this hack and slash, really over the top. All the skills are really crunchy. Your character feels really strong. It doesn't really heavily rely on groups. Like a lot of the play that you do, you can just really get into. I mean, I don't know. I would look into it. Lost Ark is going to be It's going to be the game of the year. I guarantee it. I 100% guarantee it.
That brings up a good point, and I would really love to hear from our viewers. How much of this content would you like to see? We're spending obviously a lot of time looking into different games. We look into, clearly Magic's kind of our, big bread and butter here, and I love it. I consume Magic every single day of some form, whether it's other content creators, reading articles, buying cards, running them. Just it's a big part of our life. But we also play a lot of other games, not just video games, but a lot of other games. I even have some board games that are coming in this year. I'm really looking forward to that I kickstarted. For those of you that are Zombicide fans out there, they have the Dead in the West Zombicide Wild West version that I'm very much looking forward to. Hopefully it comes in this year with all of the supply problems and delivery problems out there. I'm not going to hold my breath on it. But that's a big one that's coming out for me board game wise this year. I also ordered Massive Darkness 2, which I've played in Tabletop Simulator. It's a clear improvement over Massive Darkness. Also put out there by oh good lord, the same company that puts out Zombicide. That's Cool Mini or Not.
I don't know board game developers at all. I know I'm excited for Frosthaven. That's supposed to be coming out. It was supposed to already be out last year, but they delayed it because.
Is that a Gloomhaven follow-on?
It's a whole different. Like there was the expansion that they released for Gloomhaven. This is a whole other standalone. Like it's made by the same people as Gloomhaven, but it's a whole new world. It's a whole new universe. All new characters. All new monsters. It's a whole big. It's huge. It's a big game.
Something else you might be able to look forward to hearing from us and possibly seeing some gameplay if you'd be willing to do that, Matt, and kind of talk to the audience while you're playing through it to kind of explain what's going on. It's kind of tough in board games to actually like talk through your steps to an audience, but we can try our best if you guys want to see some of that kind of content.
You and I have played Lord of the Rings card game before, the TCG.
And I saw some new stuff for the Arkham Horror.
Yeah,
just saw a commercial for that.
I've only played Arkham Horror once, but where have I even played it? I played the House on Haunted Hill, I think is what it was called. I don't know that I've actually played Arkham Horror, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
It's also a living card game, so much like Lord of the Rings, the expenses never stop.
Ashes.
Unlike MTG, these LCGs, the living card games, you have these expansion packs. There's no variability in the packs. If I buy that expansion pack, is the same pack that Matt bought that you would buy. So it's not like buying boosters where you have randomness involved. It's they release them quite frequently for these living card games, but it's exactly the same cards for everybody. So
it's the same thing with Ashes Reborn. That's another card game that I've been into recently that I signed up for. Team Covenant's doing. They're working with Plaid Gaming to kind of revitalize this game because this game had died, and they had stopped producing any product for it. But then the Covenant Gaming, Team Covenant, they actually got together with the developer and said, if we can get enough subscriptions to kind of fuel the creation of the game, would you? And they actually did, and they got enough subscriptions, and this was my first one that I've ever gotten. So I have 2 new decks, and they even added like a new special. I don't know why this is here, but this was in between the 2 boxes, and it was like a little add-on, which was cool. But yeah, Ashes is another game that I don't know if you've played, Rob, but it's a really fun game. Warhammer is made by the same people that make Lord of the Rings, and they are very similar. But the Star Wars game, that one that you were playing and teaching me, is very similar to.
I don't think Warhammer and Lord of the Rings are by the same company. It's Fantasy Flight Games that makes Lord of the Rings.
I showed you the box. Yeah, they make the Warhammer. It's called Warhammer Quest. Yep.
At any rate, so I think there's some stuff coming out for Arkham Horror. I don't know what they're doing with the Lord of the Rings franchise. Other than I think this year they're supposed to potentially come out with the Lord of the Rings on Amazon for the live action series. So I think we're going to see at least some forward progress with that. Been watching The Witcher. Season 2 just came out.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to fully release all the episodes so I can watch it.
Are they not all out? I thought they were all out.
I don't know.
I think they're all out. I think I've actually watched the whole thing.
Maybe.
I think they released it all at once. The one that they haven't released all of it was Wheel of Time, which I'm still kind of lukewarm on that. I loved the book series, and I think it kind of suffers a little bit like Dune did. Dune was another great book series, but for whatever reason, they just don't seem to get the storytelling done very well in those movies. So most people that watch them and you ask them, like, what is it about? And they're like, I don't know. It's a space movie. And it's kind of like what they did with the Wheel of Time. You're going to get a very incoherent. If you didn't read the book, you wouldn't really have the references. Kind of like in Arcane, what you were talking about, where you didn't have that ooh and ah factor. Unfortunately, with Dune and Wheel of Time, it seems like they very much just kind of don't tell the story that's in the book, the main story. And you kind of have to fill in the gaps by having read the book and know what the story is doing and where it's going, because they just really didn't do a great job of the storytelling aspect of it. Not that the acting's bad or that the production value is low. It's just the storytelling was just kind of off, and that happens from time to time in movies and series. Wheel of Time is not bad. Like Dune movies, they're just kind of bad. But
I think I've only watched the first Dune movie really, or one of the Dune movies.
The first Dune movie was terrible.
Big sandworms, right?
What's that?
The big sandworms, right?
Or yeah, no? But that was in the first movie, and then that was like back in the 80s. And then they did a mini series with William Hurt, which was probably the best at storytelling, but they had many more hours to tell the story. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really fair to compare a movie to a mini series. And what they should take from that is that if they're going to do such an epic storyline, break it up like Harry Potter. Imagine trying to tell the entire Harry Potter series in one movie. It would be strange. It would be disjointed. And you wouldn't really understand what's going on. So when they try to do that in movies, it also comes out disjointed. And they should at times break it up into multiple movies and just leave people hanging. You know, it's fine. It's fine to not tell the complete story as long as you tell a cohesive story and leave people begging for more. But The Witcher just came out. So I'm digressing here. Watched all of that. It was I like season 2 better than season 1. Never been a huge fan of The Witcher. It was good.
I thought season 1 was good.
I really don't like the Bard. I know he's a big geek culture guy,
he's
but
okay.
It drives me nuts. Like even when I read the Lord of the Rings books and the Hobbit with all the singing and those are pages I would just flip through. I don't want to see that. I don't like musicals. I don't really need to hear it. I like music as part of the background filler, but when it becomes in the part of the foreground, I don't want a musical comedy in my hack and slash Witcher movie. Sorry. That's my only real critique. Love Henry Cavill as the Witcher. I think he does a fantastic job. And season 2 is very, very good. If you like season 1, you'll like season 2. Been watching a lot of The Expanse. So if you guys haven't ever watched The Expanse, that would be one of my number 1 or number 2 recommended shows. It's on Prime. I would say stick with it for the first couple of seasons. It's almost a little bit slowish in the first couple of seasons, but it picks up steam, and it's just one of my favorite shows ever. And season 6 just came out. Unfortunately, they released that like 1 week at a time, so that kind of sucks.
The new Dexter coming out. I'm super excited for when that finishes so I can watch it. I haven't watched it yet. I think they're on season or episode 8 or 7, something like that.
We only watched the first couple, and it didn't quite hook us as much as the earlier.
That's why I want to watch it all at once, because typically, like for I think Game of Thrones. I think Game of Thrones, I don't think I would have gotten hooked if I watched it every week or once a week in the very beginning. I think it's one of those movies or shows that kind of require you to like watch it all at once, at least as far as I work.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I'll tell you, the first show that did that to me was Lost. And I think Lost is terrible when you watch it like week after week. It's just like, what's going on? And there's too many little details to have to follow. And it just
I watched it with
like
my dad and my girlfriend at the time, like every week. It was like our thing. So
what Lost is way better when you watch it uninterrupted, back to back episodes, commercial free.
Yeah.
That completely changed my opinion of it. And it was so much better. It was almost revelational to me. It was before they were really doing streaming like they do now. When I watched that, and it really did change the whole outlook on the show. So I totally get it. That oftentimes you want to wait till an entire season's released because it's too disjointed to watch it week after week, and you kind of forget life goes on in between the episodes, and you just kind of And I think that's a definite shift. Just speaking of TV shows, like my mother and my brother, they like what I call episodic TV. Like NCIS, where each 30-40 minute show is completely encapsulated. They have their story arc, the beginning, the climax, and the conclusion each 30-40 minutes. Whereas a lot of these longer story arc type shows like The Witcher or whatnot, they kind of have those smaller story arcs in each episode, but they're not necessarily complete, right? It could take multiple episodes to actually finish sub arcs within, a season. Seasons tend to have like a complete arc, but they've accepted that it's okay not to complete a story arc in a single episode.
Yeah, kind of a downside.
And I like that. Well, I mean, I don't find it a downside. It's only a downside if you release it, week after week, and then people are like,
true.
it was interesting arc. But when you release the whole thing, or we'll just watch it all at one sitting, you can consume that arc in a 3-hour stretch that you binge. And so it's interesting to see, kind of storytelling evolve based on the technology of streaming, and it's really changed the way people watch shows and TV. I hope that everybody has a wonderful holiday season. I hope that 2021 you found some solace in gaming, whatever form that was, and that you're looking forward to 2022, and that you have a happy, healthy holiday season and new year, and hope to see all of you again very, very soon.
Yeah, thanks for spending your time with us. This is going to be obviously probably broken out in multiple videos, but hope everybody has a happy holiday, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your loved ones, cherish them, and we cherish you spending your time with us. Thank you.